Good evening, and welcome back to Boring Science for Sleep, the quiet place where gentle science stories help slow the mind and guide you softly towards sleep. Tonight's story begins with a strange little moment that many people have experienced at least once in their lives. A moment when reality feels slightly out of place. You might be walking into a room, hearing someone say a sentence, or turning a corner on a quiet street, when suddenly a thought appears in your mind. Wait, haven't I already lived this moment before? Not something similar, not something that merely reminds you of the past, but the deep, unmistakable feeling that this exact moment has already happened. That curious sensation is known as déjà vu, and tonight we're going to drift slowly through 100 sleepy facts about why your brain sometimes creates this mysterious experience. Along the way, you'll discover how your memory quietly compares the present moment with thousands of past experiences, how tiny delays in neural signals can create illusions of familiarity, and how the brain gently stitches together the story of your life without you ever noticing. By the end of tonight's story, you may begin to see déjà vu not as something strange or unsettling, but as a small and fascinating window into how the human mind organizes memory, time, and experience. But before we begin our slow exploration of the sleeping brain, I'd love to know something simple. Where in the world are you listening from tonight, and what time is it there right now? Some listeners might be settling into bed in New York close to midnight. Others might be relaxing somewhere in Europe during the late evening, or perhaps starting a quiet morning across the other side of the world. If you feel like it, leave a comment below telling us your location and the time where you are right now. It's always calming to see this little sleepy science community scattered across the planet, all listening together under different skies. Now dim the lights, let your breathing slow, and allow the day to quietly fade into the background, because tonight we are exploring one of the most curious sensations the brain can create, the gentle illusion that the present moment has already been lived. Scientists estimate that most people will experience déjà vu at some point in their lives. Sometimes it arrives only once or twice. For others, it appears occasionally throughout the years, like a faint echo drifting through ordinary moments. The experience usually lasts only a few seconds, just long enough for your mind to pause, notice the strange familiarity, and then watch it dissolve as quickly as it appeared. What makes déjà vu so fascinating is that it rarely happens during dramatic or unusual events. Instead, it often appears during the quietest moments of everyday life. Walking into a room, hearing someone speak, looking at a simple scene that suddenly feels oddly familiar. And for more than 100 years, scientists have wondered why the brain sometimes produces this brief and mysterious feeling that the present moment has already been written somewhere in the past. To understand that mystery, we first need to explore something even more remarkable: the silent machinery inside your brain that quietly builds, stores, and compares the memories of your life. To understand why déjà vu happens, we first need to explore one of the most remarkable systems inside the human body: your brain's quiet memory machine. Every moment of your life, every conversation, every place you visit, every face you recognize, passes through this invisible system. Right now, as you listen to this story, your brain is already recording small details about this moment: the rhythm of the voice, the quietness of the room, the way your body is slowly relaxing as the day fades away. But memory does not work the way many people imagine. Your brain is not a video camera recording perfect footage of everything that happens. It does not store events as complete movies that can be replayed exactly the same way later. Instead, memory is something much softer, something more like a collection of impressions. Small fragments of sound, image, emotion, and meaning. When you remember a moment from your past, your brain is not simply playing a recording. It is reconstructing the experience from pieces, a little like assembling a puzzle made of sensations. Some pieces might be visual details, others might be the feeling you had at the time, and some pieces might simply be the knowledge that something happened, even if the details have faded. Deep inside your brain, one small structure plays a very important role in building these memories. It is called the hippocampus. The hippocampus sits within the temporal lobe, curled gently like a tiny seahorse. Its name actually comes from the Greek words for horse and sea monster. Despite its small size, it is one of the most important memory structures in the entire brain. Each day, the hippocampus quietly helps convert your experiences into memories. When something new happens, when you visit a place for the first time, meet a person, or learn a new idea, the hippocampus helps organize that experience. It links together the different parts of the moment, the sights, the sounds, the emotions, the surrounding context. All of these pieces are briefly gathered together, forming the first fragile version of a memory. But the hippocampus does not keep those memories forever. Instead, it acts more like a temporary librarian. Over time, often during sleep, these memory fragments are gradually transferred into different regions of the brain's cortex, where they can be stored for longer periods. In a sense, your brain is constantly moving memories around, organizing them quietly in the background. And while all of this is happening, you are rarely aware of it. Memory formation is one of the many processes that unfold silently beneath consciousness. While you go about your day working, walking, speaking, thinking, your brain is constantly sorting through experience, deciding what is important, deciding what can be forgotten, and deciding what should be stored as part of your personal history. But here is something fascinating. The brain does not simply store memories. It also compares them. Every new moment that enters your awareness is gently checked against the enormous library of experiences you have already lived. When you walk into a familiar room, your brain quickly matches the sights and sounds to memories that already exist. This is how you instantly recognize places you have visited before. It is also how you recognize the face of a friend within a fraction of a second. Your brain is constantly asking a quiet question. Have I experienced something like this before? Most of the time, the answer is clear. Yes, you have. Or no, this is new. But occasionally, the system becomes a little confused. Because memory is built from fragments rather than perfect recordings, the brain sometimes encounters patterns that feel familiar, even when the full memory cannot be located. Perhaps the lighting of a room resembles another place you once visited. Perhaps the tone of someone's voice echoes a conversation from years ago. Perhaps the arrangement of objects in a scene reminds your brain of something buried deep in the past. Your brain senses a similarity, but it cannot find the exact memory that explains it. In these moments, the system hesitates, and that hesitation can produce a strange sensation, a quiet whisper of familiarity, as if the present moment has somehow been experienced before. This is one reason why déjà vu often appears during the most ordinary situations. Your brain is constantly scanning patterns in the world around you, patterns of shapes, patterns of sounds, patterns of movements and faces. When a new experience accidentally resembles something stored deep within your memory network, the brain can briefly misinterpret the signal. Instead of recognizing the moment as new, it produces the subtle feeling that it belongs to the past. In reality, the brain is simply encountering a pattern that resembles something it already knows. But because the full memory cannot be retrieved, the sensation becomes mysterious. Another important piece of this puzzle involves the relationship between short-term memory and long-term memory. Short-term memory holds information for only a brief period, seconds or minutes. Long-term memory, on the other hand, stores experiences that can last for years or even a lifetime. Normally, information flows smoothly from short-term awareness into long-term storage. But occasionally, the boundaries between these systems can blur. A moment that has just entered your awareness may be processed in a way that makes it feel as though it has already been stored. When this happens, the brain may mistakenly interpret the present moment as something remembered rather than something new. The result is that peculiar flicker of familiarity, the feeling that you are remembering something that is actually happening right now. All of this reveals something very important about the nature of human memory. Memory is not a fixed archive. It is not a perfect library of recordings. Instead, it is more like a living story that your brain constantly rewrites and rearranges. Each time you remember something, your brain reconstructs it from pieces. Details can shift. Emotions can color the experience. Small fragments can fade while others become clearer. In this sense, memory behaves less like a storage device and more like a storyteller. A quiet storyteller inside the mind, assembling the narrative of your life from thousands of scattered impressions. And most of the time, that storyteller does its work with incredible accuracy. But sometimes, just for a brief moment, the system creates a tiny confusion. A moment where the present feels like the past. A moment where memory and perception briefly overlap. And when that happens, your mind experiences the gentle mystery we call déjà vu. But the story of déjà vu is not finished yet, because another important piece of the puzzle lies in something even subtler: the brain's ability to sense familiarity, even when it cannot remember why. As we continue our quiet exploration of déjà vu, we arrive at another gentle mystery inside the human mind: the difference between remembering something and simply feeling that it is familiar. At first glance, these two experiences may seem almost identical. If something feels familiar, we often assume that we must remember it. But inside the brain, these are actually two different processes. Remembering is when the mind can clearly retrieve details about a past event. You might remember the place where something happened, the people who were there, the sounds in the room, perhaps even the emotions you felt at the time. Memory, in this sense, is like opening a page from a story that your brain has already written. But familiarity is something quieter, something simpler. Familiarity is the gentle feeling that the brain recognizes something, even when it cannot explain why. You may walk past a stranger in the street whose face feels oddly familiar. You might hear a melody that seems known, even though you cannot remember where you first heard it. Or you may enter a room and immediately feel that something about the scene is known to you, even though the details remain unclear. This quiet sensation of recognition is produced by one of the brain's most efficient systems. A system designed to help you navigate the world quickly and safely. Imagine for a moment how exhausting life would be if your brain had to carefully analyze every single face you saw, every building you passed, every object you encountered. Instead, the brain relies on fast signals of familiarity. Within fractions of a second, your mind can determine whether something is known or unknown, whether a place feels safe, whether a person is someone you have met before, whether a situation requires careful attention or relaxed confidence. This system allows you to move through the world smoothly. But sometimes, this rapid sense of familiarity appears without a clear memory attached to it. And when that happens, the brain becomes slightly puzzled. Imagine the brain as a librarian, searching through an enormous archive of memories. When the feeling of familiarity appears, the brain quickly begins scanning its shelves, looking for the memory that explains why this moment feels known. It searches through rooms and faces and conversations from the past, through childhood memories, distant places, forgotten experiences. But occasionally the search comes up empty. The brain cannot locate the memory that explains the feeling, and that is when the strange sensation of déjà vu begins to emerge. You feel absolutely certain that the moment is familiar, Yet at the same time, you know that it should not be. This combination of certainty and confusion creates the peculiar emotional tone of déjà vu. It is both convincing and mysterious. Your mind insists that you have experienced the moment before, but logic quietly whispers that this is impossible. For a brief second or two, the brain exists in a strange balance between recognition and uncertainty. Scientists believe that this experience often happens when the familiarity system activates slightly ahead of the memory system. The brain senses that something resembles a past experience, but the full memory cannot be retrieved. The result is a feeling that something has been remembered, even though nothing specific appears in consciousness. In many ways, this experience is similar to another feeling you may have noticed before. The sensation that a word is on the tip of your tongue. You know that you know it. You can almost reach it, but the answer remains just out of reach. Déjà vu may work in a similar way. The brain senses a connection to something in the past, but the memory itself remains hidden somewhere deep within the mind's vast archive. Because of this, many people describe déjà vu as feeling like a missing piece of memory, a fragment of a story that should exist, but cannot quite be found. And yet, despite this uncertainty, the feeling can be surprisingly convincing. For a brief moment, the brain's familiarity signal is so strong that it overrides doubt. The mind becomes quietly certain that this moment has already happened, even though reason suggests otherwise. Interestingly, this sense of familiarity is closely related to something else the brain uses every day: intuition. Intuition is the mind's ability to recognize patterns quickly, often without conscious reasoning. When you instantly feel that a situation is safe or that something seems slightly wrong, your brain is relying on familiarity signals built from past experience. Over many years, the mind collects countless subtle patterns about the world: the tone of voices, the shapes of environments, the rhythms of human behavior. These patterns become part of the brain's intuitive knowledge. Most of the time, intuition works beautifully. It helps guide decisions and protect us from danger. But occasionally, the same pattern recognition system can produce signals that are slightly misplaced. A situation may resemble something from the past, just enough to trigger familiarity, but not enough to produce a clear memory. When this happens, the mind briefly experiences the illusion that the present moment belongs to the past. Fortunately, the brain is also very good at correcting itself. After a few seconds, other systems within the mind begin to evaluate the situation more carefully. Logic returns. The brain realizes that the moment is new. The strange feeling slowly fades, and life continues as normal. Most episodes of déjà vu end exactly this way, like a ripple on the surface of a calm lake, appearing suddenly, lingering for just a moment, and then disappearing into stillness, leaving behind only a quiet curiosity about how such a feeling could arise so easily inside the human mind. But there is another possible explanation for déjà vu that scientists find equally fascinating, one that involves not memory, but time itself inside the brain. Because sometimes, the mystery may come from something even smaller, a delay so tiny that it lasts only a fraction of a second, yet changes how the mind experiences reality. As we continue our gentle journey through the mysteries of déjà vu, scientists offer another fascinating possibility. What if the strange feeling of having lived a moment before is not caused by memory at all? What if it is caused by time? Not time in the outside world, but time inside the brain itself. Because the brain is not only a machine that stores memories, it is also a system that processes enormous amounts of information every single second. Light enters your eyes, sound reaches your ears, touch travels through the nerves of your skin, Each of these signals begins a journey through networks of neurons that carry information toward the brain. Under normal conditions, these sensory signals arrive and are processed with extraordinary precision. Your brain combines sights, sounds, and sensations into a single, seamless experience of the present moment. When you look around a room, you do not experience the sound before the image or the image before the movement. Everything feels synchronized, smooth, unified. But behind that smooth experience lies a complicated web of timing. Signals travel along different neural pathways at slightly different speeds. Some pathways are shorter. Some contain more connections between neurons. Some require more processing before the brain fully understands the information. Normally, the brain manages this timing perfectly. Tiny differences in signal speed are automatically adjusted so that the final experience appears unified. But some scientists believe that, occasionally, a small timing error may slip through, a delay so small that it lasts only a fraction of a second. Yet that tiny difference may be enough to create the illusion of déjà vu. This idea is often called the timing glitch theory, or sometimes the processing delay theory. The basic idea is surprisingly simple. Imagine that a visual scene enters your eyes. The signal begins traveling through the visual pathways toward the brain. At the same time, that same signal may be processed along two slightly different neural routes. One pathway might deliver the information immediately. Another pathway might take just a little longer, perhaps a few milliseconds longer. If the faster signal reaches the brain first, the moment is registered as something happening right now. But when the slower signal arrives a split second later, the brain may interpret it differently, because the information has technically already been processed once. So when the second signal arrives, the brain may mistakenly interpret it as something remembered rather than something new. In other words, the brain briefly treats the second signal as if it were a memory, and that tiny misinterpretation creates the powerful sensation that the present moment has already happened, even though it has not. What makes this idea especially fascinating is how small the timing difference might be. The delay could be only a few milliseconds, a time interval so small that the conscious mind would never notice it directly. Yet the brain's memory systems are sensitive enough to detect even that tiny difference. And when the brain receives information that seems to have already been processed, it produces the feeling of familiarity. Researchers have explored this idea by studying how the brain processes visual information. When light enters the eye, it is converted into electrical signals that travel through the optic nerve and into several different visual processing areas of the brain. Some of these pathways process basic information such as edges, shapes, and movement. Other pathways analyze more complex patterns, like recognizing objects or faces. These visual systems work together with incredible speed, but they do not always operate in perfect synchrony. Under certain conditions such as fatigue, distraction, or sensory overload, the timing between these systems may shift slightly, and that shift could create the brief illusion that the brain has already seen something, even though it is only seeing it for the first time. This theory also highlights something remarkable about the relationship between perception and memory. We often think of perception and memory as separate processes. First we experience something, then later we remember it. But inside the brain, these systems are deeply connected. The moment you perceive something, your brain is already comparing it to past experiences, already asking whether it belongs to something familiar, already deciding whether it should be stored as a memory. In other words, perception and memory are constantly working together, like two musicians playing the same melody from slightly different parts of the orchestra. Most of the time, their timing is perfectly aligned. But if one instrument enters just a fraction of a second too late, the harmony briefly shifts. That tiny shift may be all it takes for the brain to misinterpret the present moment as something remembered. What makes this explanation so intriguing is that it does not require any mysterious memory from the past. It does not suggest that the moment has actually been experienced before. Instead, it suggests that the brain simply processed the same moment twice, separated by a tiny delay. The first signal registers the experience. The second signal arrives and is interpreted as something already known. And in that brief overlap between perception and memory, the mind produces the quiet illusion of déjà vu. Fortunately, the brain is extremely good at correcting these kinds of errors. Within seconds, other cognitive systems begin evaluating the situation more carefully. The brain realizes that the environment is new, that nothing in the scene actually belongs to the past, and the strange sensation fades away just as quickly as it appeared, leaving behind only a faint sense of curiosity, a reminder that the brain, despite its incredible precision, is still a biological system. A system built from billions of neurons communicating through delicate electrical signals. And occasionally, even the most sophisticated machine in the known universe can experience a tiny, harmless glitch. But there is yet another possibility scientists have considered. One that involves not delays in time, but the way the brain sometimes processes the same moment twice without us noticing. And that idea leads us to another intriguing explanation for déjà vu. The possibility that the mind may occasionally experience a moment once, and then again, almost immediately. As scientists continued exploring the mystery of déjà vu, another intriguing idea began to emerge. This explanation suggests that the experience may not come from memory errors or timing delays alone. Instead, it may arise from something even simpler. The possibility that the brain briefly processes the same moment twice. This idea is often called the split perception hypothesis. To understand it, imagine the brain as a system that is constantly receiving streams of information from the outside world. Every second, your senses collect an enormous amount of data. Light entering your eyes, sound reaching your ears, the feeling of air on your skin, the subtle awareness of your body resting in a chair or lying on a pillow. All of this information flows into the brain continuously, but your attention cannot focus on everything at once. Instead, attention acts like a gentle spotlight. It highlights certain parts of experience while leaving others in the background. Most of the time, this system works beautifully. You notice what matters most while the brain quietly processes the rest in the background. But sometimes, attention briefly shifts away from a moment. Perhaps you are distracted for just an instant. Your mind wanders, your eyes glance somewhere else, or your thoughts drift for a second before returning to the present. During that tiny lapse in attention, your brain may still receive the sensory information from the environment. The sights and sounds of the moment still enter your perception. But because your attention is elsewhere, the experience is not fully registered in conscious awareness. It passes through the brain almost unnoticed. Then, a moment later, your attention returns. Your eyes refocus. Your mind becomes aware of the scene again. And now the brain processes the same environment a second time. But this time, you are fully aware of it. The brain perceives the moment clearly. And because the scene was already processed once just seconds earlier, it can create the strange impression that the moment is repeating itself. The second perception feels familiar because, in a sense, the brain has already encountered it, even though you never consciously noticed the first experience. This tiny duplication of perception can create the powerful illusion that the present moment has happened before, not because the memory comes from the distant past, but because the brain processed the moment once and then again, within seconds. Researchers believe that this effect may occur more easily when attention is divided. For example, when you are doing several things at once. Imagine walking into a room while talking to someone, checking your phone, or thinking about something unrelated. Your senses continue collecting information from the environment, but your attention may not fully register everything happening around you. A scene might enter your perception quietly, without reaching full awareness. Then, when your attention shifts back to the environment, the brain processes the same scene again, and the second experience carries a subtle feeling of familiarity, because part of your brain has already encountered it. This idea highlights something important about the relationship between attention and memory. Attention plays a crucial role in how memories are formed. Experiences that receive full attention are more likely to become clear memories. Experiences that occur while attention is divided may be processed more weakly. They may leave only faint traces in the brain. Sometimes these faint traces may be strong enough to create a feeling of familiarity, but too weak to produce a clear memory. And this is exactly the combination that produces déjà vu, a feeling of recognition without an identifiable memory. Interestingly, this may also explain why déjà vu often occurs when people are slightly tired or distracted. When the brain is fatigued, attention becomes less stable. Your mind may drift more easily between focus and distraction. During these moments, sensory information may be processed briefly without reaching full awareness. Then, when attention returns, the same information is processed again. The brain recognizes the scene as something it has just encountered. But the first encounter happened outside conscious awareness. The result is that curious sensation of familiarity. The moment feels like a repetition, even though it is technically the first time you are consciously experiencing it. This phenomenon also connects to something many people experience during everyday life: the feeling of suddenly becoming aware of something that was already happening around you. Perhaps you suddenly notice the ticking of a clock that has been present the entire time, or you become aware of background music that your brain had been ignoring. Your senses had already registered those sounds, but your attention had not fully processed them until that moment. The brain often processes information automatically in the background, allowing conscious awareness to focus on what seems most important. And occasionally, this automatic processing may create subtle overlaps between unconscious perception and conscious awareness. For a brief moment, the brain experiences the same information twice, once quietly in the background, and once again in the spotlight of attention. When these two experiences overlap, the brain may interpret the second perception as something remembered, even though it occurred only seconds earlier. Fortunately, the brain quickly resolves the confusion. Within a few moments, other cognitive systems re-evaluate the situation. The mind recognizes that the environment is new, that the moment is unfolding in real time, and the strange sense of repetition gently fades away, like a small ripple in the surface of consciousness. Yet these tiny moments of confusion reveal something beautiful about the brain. They show how carefully the mind balances attention, perception, and memory. Three systems working together constantly to create the smooth experience of reality. And when those systems briefly overlap in unusual ways, the mind produces one of its most curious sensations: the feeling that the present moment has already happened. But scientists have also explored another possibility, one that moves beyond perception and attention and into a realm many people find even more mysterious: the quiet influence of dreams and sleeping memory. As the night grows quieter, we arrive at another gentle possibility in the story of déjà vu, one that drifts through the soft landscape of sleep. Because some scientists believe that the strange feeling of having lived a moment before may sometimes come from something unexpected: dreams. Almost every night, while the body rests and the world outside grows silent, the brain becomes quietly active in a different way. During sleep, especially in the deeper stages and during rapid eye movement, sleep often called REM sleep, the brain begins sorting through the events of the day. Experiences are reviewed, memories are strengthened, connections between ideas are quietly rearranged, and somewhere within this mysterious process, the mind also creates dreams. Dreams are not simple recordings of reality. Much like waking memory, dreams are constructed from fragments, pieces of images, snippets of conversations, places that resemble real locations but are slightly different, emotions that appear without clear explanation. In dreams, the brain freely mixes together pieces of past experiences. A street from childhood may appear beside a room you visited only yesterday. The face of a friend may blend with the voice of someone else. Time and logic become softer, more fluid. Because dreams are created from fragments of memory, they often produce scenes that feel strangely familiar, even when they are entirely new. And sometimes, when we wake up, those dream fragments remain quietly stored somewhere within the mind, but they are rarely stored as complete memories. Most dreams fade quickly after we wake. Within minutes, many details dissolve. The colors blur, the characters disappear. Only faint impressions remain. Perhaps the sense of being somewhere. Perhaps the feeling that something meaningful happened. But the full story is usually lost. Yet even when dreams fade from conscious memory, traces of them may still remain within the brain's deeper memory systems. Small impressions, subtle patterns, quiet emotional echoes. And this is where dreams may begin to connect with the experience of déjà vu. Imagine that during the night, your brain constructs a dream that includes a particular environment, a hallway, a conversation, a certain arrangement of objects in a room. You may not remember the dream clearly after waking, but the brain may still store fragments of the scene somewhere deep within its memory networks. Then later, during the day, you encounter a real environment that resembles that forgotten dream. The lighting may feel similar. The arrangement of people in the room may resemble the dream's structure. The tone of a conversation may echo something your sleeping mind once imagined. Your brain senses that something about the moment feels familiar, but when it searches for the memory, it cannot find a clear explanation. The dream that created the familiarity has already faded. All that remains is the faint impression, and so the present moment feels strangely known, as if it has already been experienced, even though you cannot remember when. Some people describe déjà vu in exactly this way. They feel certain that the moment resembles a dream they once had, but the dream itself remains just out of reach, like a memory that has dissolved into mist. This idea also connects to something remarkable about the role of sleep in memory. During waking hours, many experiences are temporarily stored in the hippocampus, the brain structure we explored earlier, but the hippocampus does not hold memories forever. During sleep, the brain begins transferring these memories to other areas of the cortex for long-term storage. This process is known as memory consolidation. While the body rests, the brain quietly strengthens certain connections between neurons. Important experiences are reinforced. Unimportant details are allowed to fade. Information is reorganized into more stable memory networks. In a sense, sleep acts as a kind of librarian for the mind, sorting through the events of the day and deciding which memories should remain. But because this process involves fragments of experience, it can also blur the boundaries between waking memory and dream imagery. Dreams may combine pieces of past experiences with imagined situations, and the brain may store some of those fragments in ways that resemble real memories. Later, when the mind encounters a similar pattern in the real world, the familiarity signal may activate. Yet the brain cannot locate a clear memory source, because the original experience happened during a dream, and the dream itself was only partially stored. This may be one reason why déjà vu often feels like a missing memory. The brain senses that something about the moment belongs to the past, but the original source remains hidden. Of course, not all scientists agree that dreams play a major role in déjà vu. The evidence is still uncertain, but the idea continues to fascinate researchers because it highlights how deeply connected sleep and memory truly are. Every night, as we drift into sleep, the brain quietly revisits the experiences of our lives. It rearranges them, rehearses them, and sometimes transforms them into dreamlike stories that never fully reach conscious awareness. Most of the time, these nocturnal creations disappear by morning, but occasionally they may leave behind subtle traces, little echoes of the night, fragments that linger quietly within the mind. And when those fragments accidentally resemble something we encounter during the day, the brain may briefly believe that the moment belongs to the past. A soft illusion created by the sleeping mind, a whisper from a dream we no longer remember. And in that brief intersection between dream and waking life, the strange sensation of déjà vu may appear. But the brain's relationship with the future may also play a role in this mystery, because the human mind is not only a machine that remembers the past, it is also constantly trying to predict what will happen next. As our quiet journey through the science of déjà vu continues, we arrive at another fascinating idea about how the brain understands the world. This idea begins with a surprising truth about the human mind. Your brain is not only reacting to the present moment, it is also constantly predicting the future. Every second of your life, the brain is making gentle guesses about what will happen next. If someone begins a sentence, your mind is already anticipating the final words. If you walk down a familiar street, your brain already expects the corner to appear at a certain distance. If you reach for a cup, your mind predicts the weight of the object before your fingers even touch it. In many ways, the brain behaves like a quiet prediction engine. Rather than waiting passively for information to arrive, it continuously builds expectations about the world. These predictions allow perception to feel smooth and effortless. But where do these predictions come from? The answer lies in your past experiences. Every moment you have lived leaves behind patterns in the brain. These patterns help the mind understand how the world usually behaves. For example, after years of walking through doors, your brain knows that turning a handle usually opens the door. After hearing thousands of conversations, your mind becomes skilled at predicting how sentences unfold. Your brain collects these patterns over a lifetime. Then it uses them to anticipate what will happen next. This process happens so quickly and automatically that we rarely notice it. But it plays an essential role in how we experience reality. In fact, many neuroscientists believe that perception itself is partly built from predictions. Your brain forms expectations about incoming sensory information. Then it compares those expectations to what your senses actually detect. If the prediction and the incoming signal match, perception feels smooth and familiar. If the prediction is wrong, the brain updates its understanding and adjusts the model. This constant comparison between prediction and reality helps the brain learn and adapt. But sometimes, something interesting happens. Occasionally, the brain's prediction becomes almost perfectly accurate. A situation unfolds exactly as the mind anticipated. The environment appears just as expected. A conversation moves precisely the way your brain predicted. The sounds, movements, and timing of events all align with your internal model of the world. When this happens, the brain may produce a powerful sense of familiarity. Because the moment feels so perfectly predicted, it can almost seem as though it has already happened. Not because the memory actually exists, but because the brain's expectations match reality so closely that the mind experiences the moment as something already known. In a sense, the brain has simulated the moment internally before it fully unfolded in the outside world. And when the real experience arrives, it feels uncannily familiar. This connection between prediction and familiarity reveals something important about why the world often feels comfortable and recognizable. Even when we enter new environments, our brains are constantly matching what we see with patterns from the past. We recognize the shape of rooms, the arrangement of furniture, the rhythm of social interactions. These patterns help the brain interpret the world quickly. They allow us to move through life without carefully analyzing every single detail. Instead, the brain relies on prediction to fill in the gaps. And this strategy is extremely efficient. In fact, prediction helps the brain conserve energy. The human brain consumes a remarkable amount of energy compared to its size. To operate efficiently, it cannot afford to process every detail of every moment from scratch. So instead, it builds models of the world. It predicts what is most likely to happen, and it focuses attention mainly on things that do not match those predictions. Unexpected events receive more attention. Expected events require less processing. This system allows the brain to function smoothly without becoming overwhelmed. It also plays a critical role in survival. If the brain can predict danger before it fully appears, it can prepare the body to respond quickly. If it can predict the behavior of other people, it can guide social interactions more effectively. Prediction helps us walk, speak, drive, and navigate the world without constantly stopping to think about every small action. But like all complex systems, the brain's prediction engine is not perfect. Occasionally, the predictions become so strong, so precise, that they blur the boundary between expectation and experience. The brain recognizes a pattern unfolding exactly as predicted, and for a brief moment, it interprets the situation as something that belongs to memory. Not just expectation, memory. The result is that curious sensation that the present moment feels strangely familiar, as if it has already been experienced somewhere before. Even though the mind has simply predicted it very accurately, this possibility reminds us that perception is not just a direct reflection of the outside world. It is a collaboration between sensory input and internal expectation, between what we see and what the brain believes it will see. And when those two forces align perfectly, the brain may briefly mistake prediction for memory, creating the gentle illusion we know as déjà vu. But there is another curious pattern scientists have noticed about this phenomenon. It does not appear equally throughout life. In fact, déjà vu seems to occur far more often during certain stages of life, especially during youth and early adulthood, which raises another interesting question. Why do younger brains seem to experience déjà vu more frequently than older ones? As scientists continued studying déjà vu, they began to notice an interesting pattern. The experience does not occur equally across all ages. In fact, many studies suggest that déjà vu appears most frequently during youth and early adulthood. Teenagers and people in their 20s often report experiencing it more often than those later in life. For many individuals, the sensation becomes less common as the years pass. By the time people reach middle age or older adulthood, déjà vu tends to appear more rarely. This curious pattern raises a natural question. Why would the brain experience déjà vu more often during the earlier stages of life? Part of the answer may lie in the way the brain itself changes as we grow older. Earlier in our journey, we explored the role of the hippocampus, the small structure deep inside the brain that helps create new memories. During youth and early adulthood, the hippocampus is especially active. It is constantly working to encode new experiences, new places, new friendships, new skills, new knowledge about the world. In these years, the brain is building an enormous library of memories at a remarkable pace. The hippocampus is actively linking together sights, sounds, and emotions, turning everyday experiences into lasting impressions. Because of this heightened activity, the systems responsible for memory comparison and familiarity are also working intensely. The brain is constantly asking its quiet question, have I experienced something like this before? With so many new experiences being processed each day, there are simply more opportunities for the brain's recognition systems to encounter patterns that resemble past memories. And when those patterns partially match stored experiences, the feeling of familiarity may appear, sometimes clearly, sometimes mysteriously. Another factor may involve the way younger brains respond to novelty. During youth, people often encounter many new environments, new schools, new cities, new social situations, new ideas and perspectives. Each unfamiliar environment presents the brain with a complex puzzle of patterns to interpret. When entering a new place, the mind automatically searches its memory networks for similarities. It looks for patterns that resemble past experiences. Perhaps the lighting of a room resembles another place visited years earlier. Perhaps the layout of a street echoes the structure of a neighborhood from childhood. The brain attempts to match these patterns quickly in order to understand the new environment. Sometimes those pattern matches are only partial, and partial recognition can easily produce that strange mixture of familiarity and uncertainty we call déjà vu. Travel, in particular, seems to increase the likelihood of experiencing this sensation. When visiting unfamiliar places, the brain encounters many environments that resemble previous locations in subtle ways. A hallway may remind the mind of another building. A cafe may resemble one visited in a different city. Even small details, the sound of footsteps, the arrangement of chairs, the smell of the air can trigger faint pattern recognition. When the brain detects these similarities without retrieving a clear memory, the moment may feel strangely familiar. Another intriguing observation involves people who spend a great deal of time reading, imagining, or daydreaming. Some studies suggest that individuals with highly active imaginations may report déjà vu more often. Why might this be? Imagination, much like dreaming, involves constructing mental scenes. When we read stories or imagine situations, the brain builds internal images of environments, conversations, and experiences. These imagined scenes can sometimes resemble real environments we later encounter. If the brain senses that a real situation resembles an imagined one, the familiarity system may activate. Yet because the original experience occurred only in imagination, the brain cannot retrieve a clear memory. The result may feel like a mysterious echo from the past. This connection between imagination and familiarity also touches on something deeper about how the brain learns. The mind is constantly searching for patterns. It tries to recognize structures in the world, repeating shapes, recurring behaviors, predictable sequences of events. This ability to detect patterns is one of the brain's greatest strengths. It allows us to learn languages, understand social cues, navigate complex environments, and make sense of the world around us. But pattern recognition also means that the brain is highly sensitive to similarities between experiences. Sometimes those similarities are real and useful. Other times they are only partial. And when partial patterns trigger the familiarity system, the mind may interpret the moment as something already experienced. This pattern sensitivity is often strongest during the years when the brain is still rapidly learning about the world. As life progresses, something interesting begins to happen. The brain gradually becomes more stable in the way it processes familiar environments. Many of the patterns of everyday life become deeply ingrained. Homes, workplaces, and daily routines become predictable. The brain becomes more efficient at distinguishing between truly familiar experiences and new ones. At the same time, the hippocampus gradually becomes less active in forming entirely new memories compared to earlier years. Because fewer entirely new patterns are being formed and compared each day, the opportunities for partial pattern confusion may decrease. As a result, déjà vu tends to appear less frequently. It does not disappear completely. Many people still experience it occasionally later in life, but the sensation becomes rarer, a quieter visitor in the landscape of memory. In many ways, this pattern reminds us that déjà vu may be closely connected to the brain's process of learning about the world. During youth, The mind is constantly mapping new experiences and searching for connections between them. It is building its understanding of reality piece by piece. And sometimes, during this ongoing search for patterns, the brain briefly overlaps the present with echoes of the past, creating the curious illusion that a moment has already happened. Yet scientists have also discovered something even more intriguing. They have attempted to recreate the feeling of déjà vu inside laboratories, using technology to simulate environments and study how the brain reacts to familiarity. And these experiments have revealed even more clues about how this mysterious sensation emerges inside the human mind. For centuries, déjà vu remained mostly a curiosity of the human mind. People described the experience in journals, conversations, and stories, but scientists had a difficult time studying it in a controlled way. The problem was simple. Déjà vu is unpredictable. It appears suddenly, often during ordinary moments, and disappears just as quickly. Because of this, researchers cannot easily ask someone to sit in a laboratory and simply experience déjà vu on command. The sensation usually lasts only a few seconds. By the time a person becomes aware of it, the moment is already fading. This unpredictability made déjà vu one of the more difficult psychological phenomena to study scientifically. Yet scientists are naturally curious creatures, and over time they began designing creative experiments to understand how the brain might produce this strange feeling. One of the earliest challenges was finding ways to recreate the sense of familiarity without memory. Researchers realized that déjà vu often involves recognizing something that feels familiar, even though we know we have never encountered it before. So the question became, can scientists create situations that feel familiar to the brain without being truly remembered? In recent years, some researchers have turned to virtual reality environments to explore this idea. In these experiments, participants are placed inside simulated digital spaces, virtual rooms, hallways, or buildings created by computer programs. The researchers designed certain environments so that they resemble each other in subtle ways. For example, two rooms might have similar layouts but with different decorations or colors. A hallway might share the same structure as another hallway the participant visited earlier. When participants later encounter a new environment that shares the same hidden layout, the brain sometimes detects the similarity. Even though the person knows the room is new, the underlying spatial pattern feels familiar. Some participants in these experiments report sensations remarkably similar to déjà vu. They recognize the environment's structure without consciously remembering why. This research suggests that the brain's pattern recognition system plays a powerful role in producing the experience. The mind senses a structure it has encountered before, even when the surface details appear different. Another surprising source of insight into déjà vu has come from medical research involving the brain itself. In certain rare situations, doctors perform procedures that involve direct electrical stimulation of specific brain regions. These procedures are sometimes used when treating severe epilepsy. During these treatments, surgeons may briefly stimulate small areas of the brain to understand how different regions contribute to perception and memory. When doctors stimulate parts of the temporal lobe, some patients report experiencing intense feelings of déjà vu. The temporal lobe contains several important structures involved in memory, including the hippocampus and nearby regions responsible for recognizing familiarity. When these areas receive electrical stimulation, the brain may temporarily activate memory-like signals. The patient may suddenly feel as though the current moment has already been experienced, even though the environment around them has not changed. These observations provided important clues for scientists. They suggested that déjà vu may be closely connected to the brain networks responsible for memory and recognition. Interestingly, some individuals with certain types of epilepsy report experiencing déjà vu shortly before a seizure begins. In these cases, the sensation may act almost like a warning signal. A brief shift in neural activity inside the temporal lobe may trigger powerful feelings of familiarity before the seizure progresses further. Although these medical cases are very different from ordinary déjà vu experiences, they helped researchers identify the brain regions that may be involved. Another powerful tool scientists use to explore the brain is neuroimaging. Technologies such as functional MRI scans allow researchers to observe which parts of the brain become active during specific mental processes. By studying memory, perception, and recognition, scientists can identify networks of brain activity related to familiarity. These studies suggest that several regions work together to produce the sense of knowing something. The hippocampus helps retrieve memories. Nearby regions of the temporal lobe contribute to the feeling of familiarity, and other areas of the brain help evaluate whether the experience truly belongs to the past. When these systems interact smoothly, we correctly recognize memories. But if their signals briefly overlap or misalign, the brain may produce the curious sensation that the present moment belongs to the past. In this way, studying déjà vu has helped scientists learn more about the nature of consciousness itself. The phenomenon reveals how delicate the relationship is between perception, memory, and awareness. It shows that the feeling of familiarity, something we often take for granted, is actually the result of complex communication between different brain systems. Researchers have also discovered that the brain's navigation system may play a role in this experience. The hippocampus not only helps store memories, it also helps us understand spatial environments. When you walk through a building or explore a new city, your brain creates internal maps of the space around you. These maps allow you to remember routes and recognize locations. If a new environment resembles the structure of a place you have visited before, the brain's navigation system may detect the similarity, even if the details appear different. This spatial recognition may contribute to the feeling that a place has been experienced before. Another quiet piece of the déjà vu puzzle. Despite decades of research, scientists still have much to learn about this fascinating sensation. The brain remains one of the most complex systems ever discovered. Billions of neurons communicating through delicate electrical signals, networks forming, changing, and adapting throughout life. Because déjà vu involves subtle interactions between memory, perception, attention, and familiarity, it may never have a single simple explanation. Instead, it may arise from several overlapping processes inside the brain. Tiny timing shifts, fragments of memory, pattern recognition, prediction, and the quiet work of the mind as it tries to understand the world. Each new study brings researchers a little closer to understanding how these systems interact. And in the process, the study of déjà vu continues to reveal something beautiful about the human mind. That even our smallest moments of confusion can open windows into the deepest mysteries of consciousness. Yet even with all these scientific explanations, the experience itself still carries a gentle sense of wonder. Because sometimes the mind reminds us that it is not only a machine for remembering the past, it is also a place where mystery quietly lives. And that mystery becomes even clearer when we reflect on what déjà vu tells us about the nature of the mind itself. As our quiet exploration of déjà vu begins to slow, we arrive at one of the most peaceful conclusions scientists have reached. Despite everything we have learned about the brain, some mysteries remain. And that is not a failure of science. In many ways, it is part of what makes the study of the mind so fascinating. The human brain is the most complex structure we have ever discovered in the known universe. Inside a space roughly the size of two closed hands live nearly 86 billion neurons, each communicating with thousands of others through delicate electrical and chemical signals. These connections form networks that constantly change and adapt. Every memory you form, every thought you think, every sensation you experience emerges from this living web of activity. And yet, despite decades of research, we are still only beginning to understand how the brain creates the experience we call consciousness. Déjà vu offers scientists a small glimpse into that mystery. It shows how fragile and intricate the systems of memory and perception truly are. When you experience déjà vu, nothing dramatic has actually happened in the outside world. The room has not changed. The conversation has not repeated itself. The environment remains exactly the same. What changes is something inside the brain, a brief shift in the way perception, memory, and familiarity interact. For just a moment, the brain becomes uncertain about where the present moment belongs. Is it something new or something remembered? The mind hesitates, and in that hesitation, the sensation of déjà vu appears. Fortunately, for most people, this experience is completely harmless. It does not mean that something is wrong with the brain. In fact, it may simply reflect how sophisticated the brain's recognition systems really are. The mind is constantly comparing present experiences with past memories, searching for patterns, detecting similarities, trying to understand where each moment fits within the larger story of your life. Occasionally, this system becomes slightly confused, but that confusion is brief and gentle. Within seconds, the brain resolves the uncertainty and continues its work. If anything, déjà vu reminds us how carefully the brain organizes time, because the brain does not only record events, it also creates the feeling of now. Think for a moment about how remarkable this is. Right now, as you listen, your brain is assembling signals from your senses into a single moment of awareness. Light from the room, sound from the voice, the feeling of your body resting. All of these signals arrive at slightly different times, yet your brain blends them together into one continuous experience. The present moment. But the present moment is not a single instant. It is actually a small window of time that the brain stitches together from multiple signals. Neuroscientists sometimes call this the brain's temporal integration window. Within that window, the brain organizes events so that they feel like part of the same moment. Déjà vu may occur when something briefly disrupts this delicate organization. The brain momentarily misplaces the experience within its timeline. A moment that belongs to the present feels as though it has already been filed into memory. The result is the curious sensation that time itself has folded back on itself. But perhaps the most beautiful part of déjà vu is that it reminds us how extraordinary the brain truly is. A system capable of constructing entire worlds of perception from electrical signals. A system that can recall childhood memories decades later. A system that allows us to imagine the future, understand language, create art, and explore ideas. And occasionally, a system that produces small moments of wonder. Moments when reality feels slightly mysterious. Moments when the mind briefly pauses and asks a quiet question. How does this all work? For scientists, these moments of curiosity are incredibly valuable, because strange experiences often lead to deeper understanding. Throughout the history of science, many discoveries began with small puzzles, an unexpected observation, a strange sensation, a phenomenon that did not behave exactly as expected. Déjà vu is one of those puzzles. It invites researchers to ask deeper questions about how memory works, how perception is constructed, and how the brain distinguishes between past and present. Even if the complete explanation remains unfinished, every study brings us closer to understanding the delicate machinery of the mind. And perhaps that unfinished mystery is part of what makes the phenomenon so captivating. The brain is not a simple machine with perfectly predictable outcomes. It is a living system, dynamic, adaptive, constantly learning, and occasionally surprising itself. When you experience déjà vu, you are witnessing a tiny glimpse of that complexity, a moment when the brain's intricate systems briefly overlap, a moment when memory and perception touch each other in unexpected ways. And in that quiet intersection, the mind produces a feeling that seems both familiar and mysterious. But as our journey gently approaches its final chapter, there is one more reflection waiting for us. A reflection about what these small moments of déjà vu might teach us about memory, time, and the way our minds quietly weave together the story of our lives. As our quiet journey through the science of déjà vu begins to come to a close, it may help to pause for a moment and reflect on what this strange little experience reveals about the human mind. Because déjà vu is not simply a curiosity, it is a small reminder of something deeper, that the brain is constantly learning from the past while shaping the present. Every moment you live becomes part of a growing network of experience inside the mind. The conversations you have had, the places you have walked, the quiet evenings and busy mornings that slowly form the rhythm of your life. All of these moments leave traces in the brain, tiny patterns of activity that remain long after the moment itself has passed. Over time, these patterns become the foundation of how your mind understands the world. When you enter a room, the brain compares what you see to the countless rooms you have seen before. When you hear a voice, the brain compares its tone and rhythm to voices stored in memory. When you face a new situation, the mind searches for experiences that resemble it. In this way, the brain is always building connections, always linking the present moment to something that came before. This is one reason why familiarity plays such a powerful role in human experience. The brain does not experience each moment as completely separate from the past. Instead, it gently weaves new experiences into the tapestry of memories already stored inside the mind. And sometimes, during that quiet process of connection, the mind briefly overlaps the present with echoes of the past. The result is the curious sensation we call déjà vu. In those moments, it can almost feel as though the mind is whispering something to itself, a soft reminder that the present moment is never entirely new. It is always shaped by the experiences that came before it. Perhaps that is why déjà vu often feels strangely meaningful, even when it lasts only a few seconds. For a brief moment, the mind becomes aware of its own inner workings. The delicate process of comparing, remembering, and understanding the world. And although science offers many explanations, timing glitches, pattern recognition, dream fragments, prediction systems, the experience itself still carries a quiet sense of wonder. Because the brain is not simply a machine that stores information. It is also a storyteller. Every memory you carry becomes part of the story your mind tells about your life. A story that grows day by day, moment by moment. Some parts of the story remain vivid and clear. Others fade into soft impressions. But together they form the map your mind uses to navigate the world. And sometimes, when the storyteller inside the brain briefly overlaps two moments in that map, the present can feel like something already written. A gentle illusion, a quiet echo, a reminder that the mind is always weaving together past and present into one continuous experience. Perhaps the most comforting part of this mystery is that it shows how alive the brain truly is. It is constantly adapting, constantly learning, constantly searching for meaning in the flow of experience. Even when we are resting, even when we are drifting towards sleep. And as you listen now, your own brain is quietly doing the same work, sorting the events of the day, strengthening certain memories, allowing others to fade gently into the background, preparing them to be stored within the vast library of your mind. So, if you have ever experienced déjà vu, that brief sensation that the present moment has already happened before, you are not witnessing something supernatural. You are simply catching a tiny glimpse of how beautifully complex your brain truly is. A moment when the mind briefly reveals the quiet machinery that shapes memory, perception, and time itself. And perhaps the next time that curious feeling appears, you might notice it differently. Not as something strange or unsettling, but as a small whisper from the storyteller inside your mind. A reminder that every moment of your life becomes part of the story your brain is always writing. Now the night is growing quieter. Your breathing may already be slower, your thoughts softer, and somewhere inside your mind, the day's memories are beginning their quiet journey into sleep. So let your mind rest. Let the story fade gently into the background, and allow the brain's quiet memory machine to continue its peaceful work as you drift slowly and comfortably into sleep. And now, as our story slowly comes to its end, allow your mind to rest in one final image. Imagine that somewhere deep inside your brain there exists a vast and peaceful library. Not a noisy place filled with movement, but a quiet, timeless hall of memory. Soft light rests between endless shelves. Each shelf holds thousands of small pages, and on each page lives a tiny fragment of your life. A morning you once experienced, a voice you once heard, a place you once visited, a feeling that passed through your heart for only a moment, yet left a gentle trace behind. Some pages are bright and clear, others are softer, like words written in fading ink. Yet together they form the story of who you are. Every day, as you move through the world, your mind quietly adds new pages to this library. New moments, new impressions, new memories waiting to be placed among the countless others. And tonight, as you rest, your brain will continue its peaceful work, sorting through the experiences of the day, placing them gently into their places on the shelves, linking them to memories from the past, preparing them to become part of the story your mind carries forward. Perhaps somewhere among those pages lives a moment that once felt like déjà vu, a brief instant where the present seemed to echo the past, a tiny reminder of how beautifully complex the human mind truly is. But now, there is nothing left to figure out, nothing left to understand. The story for tonight is complete. All that remains is quiet. So allow your breathing to slow. Let your thoughts grow softer, and let the calm music continue to drift gently around you. If your eyes are still open, you may close them now. The night is here. The mind can rest. From boring science for sleep, I wish you a peaceful night and a gentle journey into sleep. Good night, and sleep well.